What's up guys, this is Maliss. So this video is not going to be an OCG metagame breakdown, but rather I'm just going to be going over a few interesting deck lists that have been seeing success in the OCG, and I felt like it would be illegal not to make a video on them because they're kind of nice, and I mean, they're actually really nice. Yeah, this is going to be a good one, and before we go any further, there are two things I should say. So first things first, I think 2 days ago, I made a video saying that I got copyright striked, unrightfully so, for a OCG live reaction match video that I've done. I guess the good news is that my strike has been removed, because I did get in contact with the YouTube channel that striked me. At least you can say that this is solved to some degree, but again, despite like this situation being solved, I'm still not in a position where it is a good idea for me to keep doing this, even if again I have people consent. The fact that YouTube can punish you before even determining who's right and wrong is already very bad for me, because all it takes is for me to make a couple of live reaction videos and then I get triple strike by the same guy, and then my channel gets terminated with absolutely no notice, pretty much nothing that I can really do about it, and then all my videos get deleted. I have over 3,000 videos on my channel, and I really don't want like 4+ years of, you know, daily work to get terminated just because, you know, some guy decided to triple strike me, again, illegally, because what I am doing is considered fair use. I am making a criticism video, so I'm commentating over someone else's video. I'm also including the link of the video in my description. I don't know if you guys remember, but that's pretty much something that I do every single time. Also actually encourage my viewers to go check out the channel that I live react to. So it's like technically really good publicity, but again, because of the fact that I'm doing this on like Japanese channels, they may not necessarily know any of this, and actually got struck by someone who didn't really watch my video. So it is very unfortunate, and some people are also not aware of how nasty a strike is. Like for them, it's kind of like a copyright claim, you know, like, oh, just move on, we're just deleting your video. But it's not really what it is, because again, like I said, when you get triple striked, your channel is completely terminated and you're banned from YouTube for life. But yeah, again, like I said, my strike got removed, so, you know, that's cool, but I'm still never gonna be making OCG live reaction match videos again. I've already explained that. Anyways, the second thing that I wanted to say, and this is very, very important, because I keep getting people contacting me, telling me to talk about this, but I really can't, and it is about the leaks that are circulating concerning, I guess, the newer cards from, like, Alliance Insight and Tactical Try, etc., like, you know, all those sets. I can't say anything about that, by the way. Kind of like a rule from Konami, like, if there's a leak going on and it's not like been approved by Konami, it's not an official thing, you can't like make a video about it. I can't promote something that isn't, you know, endorsed by Konami. So yeah, don't expect me to make a video on those leaks. I will not be doing that. However, there is a very interesting cool little idea that I wanted to do, and I've actually been trying to do it for quite a while. I wanted to make some custom support for certain decks and try to figure out if those custom support cards could actually fix the deck in question. And the next one that I want to do is Cyber Dragon, because Cyber Dragon is absolutely my favorite deck. So I will be making a video on that actually tomorrow, so please stay tuned. It's gonna be a great one. Anyways, with all of that out of the way, sorry for taking so much of your time. Let's get right into it. Okay, so this is the Yu-Gi-Oh! Korea Championship 2024. It was held yesterday, actually. It says yesterday, but it was technically like 2 days ago, because I guess they're like 12 hours ahead or like 14 hours ahead or something like that. But yeah, we are seeing no Raziel deck list for some reason in top 4. Very interesting. Snake Eye Fire King, Exorcister, Tenpai, and Fiendsmith Centurion. This feels like the results we would be getting in the TCG. Well, minus Exorcister. That one was kind of random, but okay, that's really nice. Anyways, for the deck list, okay, so how many... My first reflex is always to check out how many hand traps is the guy playing. So 3, 4, 6, 7, 10, 12 hand traps, and then some other utility cards. Talent, main deck Scale Drain, there we go. Not my first time seeing this. Dominus Impulse, despite the fact that it's very bad against Raziel. Maybe this event banned Raziel. Maybe in South Korea they don't have Raziel yet. I don't think so though. That's kind of whack, but okay. And also no Artifact Lancia, so maybe Maliss doesn't exist. I have no idea. Maybe there are some rules about what kind of decks you are allowed to play. Exorcister here, which is another very interesting deck. It's a deck that gets hype every now and then because, you know, some people say, oh, it's the best budget shifter deck that you can play. Blah, it's better than what you think. And you know, it is not too bad. It is a shifter deck. It is a deck that can just sack you at the speed of light. Martha is still a very good card, but it doesn't have a lot of starters, you know, so that's the reason why this one is also playing Aratama or something like that. It searches Sakitama, and then that is a one card. I forgot the name of the card, but whatever. This card searches Martha, and then you can make Michaeli search the Returnia or the Vadis, and then you can play from there. So that's really nice. So yeah, this is a great one card starter. Spell card Monster Reborn is actually very clever as well, because you revive back something from your opponent's graveyard so that it triggers the Martha. and then you can evolve that into a rank 4, and you can do this on your opponent's turn. I definitely do like this. Same thing with Call by the Grave. These cards, they have like inherent synergy in the deck, so it's not like random non-engine card that you're playing that add nothing to your strategy, so that's really cool. And even if your Martha gets ashed in your hand, you can still normal summon Martha and then use these cards on your opponent's turn. Definitely a big fan. I think this deck is really cool. Okay, yes. This is playing 6 Molchamis and Ultimate Slayer in the main deck. So you know what? Raziel had to be a thing. Otherwise, the Ultimate Slayers wouldn't be here. But Raziel was played, but no Maliss, because I'm not seeing any Artifact Lancia, and usually everybody sides Artifact Lancia. So again, very confused. Imperial Iron Wall, there you go. That is one card against Maliss, at least. I will be making a video on like all the best cards against Raziel and Maliss very, very soon, by the way, so stay tuned. And no Shifter in the main deck. Again, very interesting, because this one is main decking Shifter. You might as well argue that Exorcister is the better Shifter deck, because it actually just does not lose to Shifter at all. I mean, to some degree. Whereas 10 by Dragon, you can't go for like Fadra Revive or, you know, Bident Revive, etc. Like, you lose your resources permanently. You can't use the graveyard effects of Bident and the Transcendent. It kind of hurts a little bit more, but still, I mean, it's still a Shifter deck. If you draw Shifter against a deck like Snake Eye Fire King, the game is absolutely donezo. And I am not seeing any food show in the extra deck or side deck. By the way, Magical Spring is a really cool card. I have seen it, I mean, a fair bit. It has a lot of nice applications. It's good against like Yubel, Fire King, because they have the Sanctuary, the Island, so a lot of cards, so you can draw a bunch of cards, and you can dig into board breakers. You can dig into like Cosmic or a Kaiju. It's a good card overall. And then finally here we have one of the weirdest looking deck lists I have ever seen in my entire existence. I will let you take 10 seconds to look at this deck list and tell me everything that you think is right and wrong. I mean, at least according to like the TCG mentality, because bro, 2 Primera, not 3, and then deck lockdown main deck, thinking, and then everything else I think is like somewhat fine-ish, but 2 Phalanx, 40 cards, there's like what, 12 starters or something? 5, okay, 8, 11, 12, yeah, 12 starters and 40. That is not a consistent deck. That is like an 85% chance of getting your 1-card combo going. And then sure, there are some Fiendsmith cards, which are technically like semi-1-card combos, but they don't really do anything. Like, what are you gonna do? Like a Lacrima, revive back a monster, and then do nothing, or like a DS Irae pass. There's no Beatrice. You can't bridge into your Centurion engine using the Fiendsmith cards. I don't really necessarily see the synergy. Like, yeah, sure, you get to play a lot of hand traps, like 2, 5, 7, 10, 13. That's not even that many. I mean, it's a lot, but I mean, it technically could have been more. In the TCG, some builds are playing like 17 hand traps or 16 in 40 cards. And I guess he's main decking deck lockdown, Call by the Grave cross out, so that might explain it, but still. Also, Plague Spirit or Zombie in the main deck. I'm just so confused. I swear to God, I don't understand anything. And I don't know if like the extra deck is like perfect either, but whatever. I mean, I'm not gonna complain about this. I think the extra deck is fine, especially considering the fact that he has to dedicate so many cards to like the Fiendsmith engine stuff. Whatever. But anyways, let's get into the more OCG looking tournament report, because this time we have a bunch of freaking Raziel, a huge amount of them, so many that there is no way we can't consider this like a non-tier 0 format. As a matter of fact, I'm actually gonna check the amount of Raziel in here. So that's out of 32. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, this doesn't count, I guess. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. 14 out of 32. That's slightly less than 50%. Yeah, it's 47%. Hold on a second. Am I stupid? Yeah, 44%. That is actually a lot. And I guess if you include like Raziel Voice's voice, it's not a Raziel deck. It's a Voice's voice deck featuring a microscopic Raziel engine. And there's some other really cool decks that are being played here. Primite Blue Eyes. Let's check that one out, because of course, huge shout out to It's your boy Akira for always providing the source for these spicy deck lists. I mean, when he can. Sometimes there's no source, I guess, but yeah, Primate Blue Eyes is a deck that I have also seen being like played out in the OCG, and it can naturally crack boards going second. Again, if only I could keep making those OCG live match reaction videos. That one was gonna be my next one, but unfortunately I can't really risk it anymore. But yeah, this deck is actually kind of freaking sick. I'm a huge fan. And yeah, it has a lot of gas, low-key. Even if you don't draw like any hand traps, the deck is still, you know, not too bad going second. And obviously going first, it is the goo. So yeah, huge fan of Blue Eyes. And it's really nice to see Blue Eyes doing actually really well in 2024. Again, maybe it's gonna win Worlds again. Fiendsmith Yubel doing well. I'm really shocked. Phantom of Yubel is at 1 in the OCG, and I guess this guy doesn't care too much. Yeah, that's a Nightmare Throne in the OCG. Yeah, the card is semi-limited, so there you go. He's maxing out on consistency. It's a good deck list for sure. 3, 5, 8, 11 hand shops, and then we play Droplet, Called by the Grave, Cross Out. Yeah, okay. How many one-card starters? 1, 2, 4, 7, 8, 11, and then 14. But there is no Chaos Summoning Beast, unless I'm blind. I can't really see it. Yeah, hold on a second. What is Opening of the Spirit Gates doing on its own? Oh, he's playing El Mirage. Yeah, so okay. So drawing Opening translates to the exact same as drawing like a Fabled Lowry, for example, which is not the best, but actually, as a matter of fact, it's worse, because you gotta discard 2 cards. You gotta discard your first time with the Opening in order to revive back the Dark Beckoning Beast that uses as a material for El Mirage, and then you can make a Moon, and then again for the Muckraker, and then you're making like, what, 4 or 5 interruptions? That's Phantom of Yubel with either Unchained Soul of Rage with the trap card, the Escape, that we can see here. That is Escape, not Chamber. Shoutouts to Escape. And also the 1-for-1 is another 1-card starter, and the Tract, so I did forget about these 2. My bad. So yeah, technically that's, hold on a second, let's do it again. 2, 4, 7, 8, 11, 14, 16. 16 starters in, I don't know how many cards that is, and I'm too lazy to count. That is a very decent probability of getting your stuff going. I guess that is very well built. I have no complaints here. But yeah, a lot of Maliss as well, a lot of, interesting decks, I guess you can say. It's really cool to see some random ass decks being played and actually doing, like I said, well, like Tenpai Dragon Dinosaur, what the frick is this? Like, where is the synergy? I'm very confused, but whatever, let's get into the deck list. So first things first, we've got Raziel, but this one is very standard, very boring, nothing for me to really go over. Can the Artifact Lancia be searched here? Yes, we are seeing the rank 5 Seraph monster, so I'm feeling really bad for Maliss players, because they have to be facing like upwards of 9 Artifact Lancias when they go second against Raziel, and I swear on my life, Lancia resolving against Maliss is a turn skip. It is terrible, absolutely garbage. Like, it's pretty much the equivalent of like Shifter against Tier. If not, it's even worse, because they could at least make like Baguska pass, but Maliss into Lancia, oh my god. It even shuts down the Bestial. Like, it shuts down like your non-engine cards too. It shuts down the Gold Sarg, the Field Spell, freaking everything. And obviously you're always shotgunning the Lancia on standby so that there is no workaround. Okay, Maliss, speaking of the devil, with Shifter main deck, not the kind of thing that you see every day, and Book of Eclipse in the main deck. This card is incredible against Raziel, and unlike Ultimate Slayer, you can also afford to main deck this card and get away with it. 1 Dominus Impulse in the main deck, that's probably just a cross-out target, because honestly, I don't really believe in this card. You can kind of argue that Shifter could be a cross-out target for this deck as well. By the way, I'm gonna say something that is gonna be shocking everyone who's gonna watch this video. I think, low-key, Maliss loses to Shifter. As unbelievable as this may sound, if the Shifter, if you, let's say this is game 1, you Shifter your opponent, and then you make a very garbage board, because there's so many things that you can't do under Shifter. Like, you can't rely on Splash Mage, Terahertz doesn't do anything under Shifter. You're also just only making like a 1 or 2 Link 3 monsters in past turn. You're not doing like, you're not popping off under Shifter. If you Shifter like an opponent who doesn't lose to Shifter at all, it's gonna hurt you if anything. But again, this deck can play like 21 non-engine cards, so 5, 8, 10, 12, 14, 17, 18, 21, 22. There we go. 22 out of 40. That is a huge number. But also, we're seeing less consistency cards here because there's only 1 Cheshire Cat. Usually, I would play 3. And also, there is no Allure of Darkness. And there's another card, no Sign and Mining either. So this deck might brick, unfortunately. That is an issue. Also, Artifact Lancia in the side deck for obvious reasons. It's broken. It's the kind of card that you just have to play. If you go second against Maliss, you draw this card, the game is donezo. They pass turn doing nothing. And Ultimate Slayer, of course, for Raziel. Okay, Maliss here with more Board Breakers. This time, 3 Book of Eclipse and 2 Droplet and a Duster in the main deck with no Dominus Impulse and no Molchamis, by the way. The Maliss deck cannot really afford to play Molchamis because this is the kind of deck where you draw so much on your opponent's turn. So you really want to have as many threats as possible that come from your hand, and you want like every single one of your hand traps to do something. So the Molchamis, if you keep drawing into them with like the Cheshire Cat or the White Binder, it's not gonna do anything, and you might actually get overwhelmed by your opponent. And also sometimes you get a hand trap to death and you pass turn and it becomes like a hand trap war, and the Molchamis are very bad if you control a card on the field for obvious reasons. Mischief of the Gnomes, very, very good card against Raziel. You can kind of argue it's better than Dimensional Barrier. Yeah, they can't Xyz summon either, because other monsters that come from the hand become level 3. And so the only like workaround would be, I don't know, like Ice Raziel, summon the Node Raziel, and then like Crash, and then Node Raziel, revive back a monster from the grave, and then nothing technically came from the hand, so they can still overlay. But then you also have like another usage with the Mischief of the Gnomes. So I think it's a really good card, and it is a huge inconvenience and a pain in the ass for your opponent. And again, still on the trend of main decking the Feather Duster, playing more board breakers. I guess that might be the new trend. Lawn Mowing Despia. There is nothing really interesting about this deck list, other than the fact that I usually don't see a lot of hand traps in Despia, but this one, it really plays a lot, like 5, 8, 10, 11, 14, and 3 Book of Eclipse. Usually it's like board breakers in Despia, but this time, more hand traps than board breakers. Very, 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 very interesting. This is like one of the spiciest deck lists that I've seen in quite a while. Fiendsmith, White Forest, Azamina, Snake-Eye. The amount of different engines that is being played is out of this world. Completely out of this world. We're seeing freaking everything that you can think of. I think there was like 6 engines in here. So obviously the Abelstar with the Azamina cards, the Snake-Eye monsters, and the White Forest, and the Fiendsmith, but also Magician's Souls and Illusion of Chaos. I don't really think there is any synergy necessarily, unless there's like the Dark Charmer that you can crash and then Surge the Souls. But even then, I'm not seeing it anywhere. So I guess the only purpose for these cards is to send like your dead evenly matched when you go first, or these surplus spells and traps that you set with the Abelstar, and you can also go like Souls, send the original from the hand, and then you can still use this graveyard effect. It's not too bad, honestly. But if you draw into hand traps going second with Magician Souls, then it defeats the purpose of even playing this card. So that's the reason why you're kind of trying to play board breakers. And I think evenly is better in the main deck than it is in the side deck, because post game 1, it's so easy to counter this card, especially if your deck loses to Lancia. Because Lancia kills 2 birds with 1 stone. Not only it shuts down your engine cards if your deck, like I said, already loses to the card, but also cards like Evenly Matched, Cosmic Cyclone, etc., they become drastically worse. Which is, by the way, one of the reasons why Cosmic Cyclone is seriously starting to see less play. You're seeing a lot of Dusters, Heavy Storm, etc., Lightning Storm as well, but we're not really seeing any Cosmics anymore. And yeah, also Chaos Hunter on top of Artifact Lancia, because nobody's really trying to give free wins to Maliss. That deck is very scary. It's the kind of deck where if you don't respect it, you will pretty much always lose to it, because the small hand traps like Ash, Valor, Imperm, they're not that great. And if you try to Imperm like a main deck Maliss monster, they can just like chain like the trap card that special summons from deck, and then you get a hand loop for 1 card for free. Anyways, Labyrinth, almost like nothing interesting to cover, but I guess the Cypher monsters in the main deck with no furnitures is not the kind of thing that you see every day. I guess you can kind of consider like Arias to be a furniture monster, kind of in a way. It behaves almost identical to like Kuklok. I mean, it has recursion from the graveyard, and it can allow you to use your trap cards on turn 0, so very similar, but some argue that this card is better than Kuklok, and some actually say that this card is cheeks and Kuklok is much better. But my question to you, if you are a Labyrinth player watching this video, what do you think is better moving forward for Labyrinth? Do you think it's like trap heavy with no furnitures and no hand traps? Do you think it's trap heavy with hand traps? Or do you think it's hand trap heavy with furnitures, or even like trap heavy with furnitures? This deck, what I love so much about Labyrinth is that there's infinite different ways of playing this deck out. You can play with floodgates, or you can just play less trap cards and still play a bunch of hand traps with the pod cards and everything. And I think that that's just really good for Yu-Gi-Oh! In general, because it really rewards innovative deck building. But yeah, a huge amount of hand traps here. 3, 5, 6, 7, 10, 13. 13 hand traps. 1/3 of your deck in a trap deck would be hand traps. Usually need like kind of a lot of cards, honestly, to grind going second. You need a lot of trap cards to be able to keep up with your opponent. So if you draw like too many monsters, then that's bad for you. If you draw too many hand traps, that's bad for you. And if you draw too many cards that don't get your engine started, like too many Karma Cannons or too many whatever like D-barriers, then that's also kind of really bad for you. So the goal is to draw like the good balance of like starters and interruptions. But again, usually when we see these kinds of deck lists, there's also I was gonna say Chandra, Chandelier, and yeah, Stovey. Yeah, there you go. Anyways, Raziel, nothing very interesting here. That's actually a very boring deck list, but I don't like it at all because Desires with only 1 field spell is very suicidal. And I also hate Desires with a lot of hand traps, because going second, again, you go Desires, banish a bunch of engine cards, draw into 2 hand traps, and you scoop the game at the speed of light. This is my very first time seeing Xyz Encore in the side deck. I wonder why this card is here. I guess you can say, well, it beats Solemn Judgment. Ultimate Slayer also kind of beats Solemn Judgment. This card also beats Anti-Spell, I guess you can say. And it also beats the fact that your opponent can chain plug in and then attach the what's its face to it, the Hole Thruster, because there is a 1-card combo where you can beat both Book of Eclipse and Ultimate Slayer depending on how you play it out. You can basically beat every single board breaker out there. With that being said, you can never beat Xyz Encore, but you do give your opponents like 2 Monster Reborns. Your opponent gets like 2 searches, so he gets like follow-up for days. And I just do think that this is a little too risky, and your opponent still has an interruption because he can still go plug in, revive back the Duo Drive, and then the field spell is live. So even with Xyz Encore, you can theoretically still lose. And this card, again, the fact that you give so many monsters to your opponent, that's what really bothers me the most. With that said, I do think that this card has a lot of potential, because I do remember when it was insane against Kashtira, the goal was to detach all the materials from the Arise Art, and then the Arise Art goes back to the extra deck, and the materials do not get revived back because they're no longer in the graveyard. I mean, they never hit the graveyard, and Xyz Encore only revives back from the graveyard, so that's also really nice. So yeah, I think this card might actually make a comeback. Oh, sorry, it was also insane against Purely, because you detach all the materials, and then you bounce back the monster to the extra deck, and it also worked against Rongo Miniad, because again, Rongo only is unaffected while you have a bunch of materials underneath. But since you're detaching all the materials, even though the monster is unaffected by card effect, it loses its immunity once you detach all the materials. Anyway, Standby Dragon. The only interesting thing here is Gold Sark with Blaster. So this is an extra 1-card starter. And then we're also seeing 2 Ultimate Slayers in the main deck and a red reboot. But honestly, this is very like standard, so I don't really care too much. The side deck, pretty solid, but no Heatwave. I think that's not the best idea. I think Heatwave is the nuts. This Resolve deck list is playing 2 Field Spell. I do recommend. And also only 1 Desires, 1 Prosperity. That's kind of fine. At least you're not going to be having like 2 Desires, 1 Field Spell, so that if you banish the Field Spell, you lose against the Mirror Match. You cannot win without the Field Spell. This card is completely unfair. If anything, I think that this card is ban-worthy, honestly. I think Raziel was very fair when we got like the first wave of support announced for the deck. And then as soon as the Field Spell was announced, and you could know that you can even negate like chain-blocked cards, people were like, yeah, this is way too much, but whatever. Fiendsmith Unchained, I've seen quite a lot of replays with that deck, and Abba Oshu is very interesting. Bro, with this card, you can draw freaking 15 cards on your standby phase, but then you do have to put like 15 cards back on the deck, so it's not really like a plus 10 billion. It's just like you get like the perfect draw every single turn. But to be fair, if you make it past turn 1, you usually win with this deck, and this deck is very good through like a bunch of hand traps. However, going second, I think it's not necessarily less good, it's just that you can play less non-engine cards. So here we're seeing 2, 5, 7, 9, 12 hand traps, and then I guess the Talon, the Droplet, the Crossout, the Call by the Grave, and the Skill Drain. It's fine, but there is also like borderline no 1-card starters either, only Tour Guide, and the Fiendsmith cards. That's about it. Yeah, Unchained is still kind of like that fair mid-range deck where you usually only have like 2-card combos. It's not like Raziel, for example, where every single one of your freaking starter works on its own. Except I guess you can say that the Thode is kind of like a shit starter, but everything else is broken. Raziel Voices Voice, again, like I said, this is not much of a Raziel deck, but rather a Voices Voice deck. The goal is to mitigate the impact of Dimensional Barrier against you as much as possible. So you get D-Bird for Ritual, you say, that's fine, I don't care. You just go summon X, send Aggregator, and then you search your Thode, you negate something, and then you summon the Thode. That Thode will search you another X for next turn, and then you can make Detonator, and then you can start destroying things, which is really cool. That's the only Xyz monster that you even play, and you're locked into rank 4 Xyz monsters from the extra deck for the rest of the turn, which is fine with Raziel because, with Voices Voice, because you're not trying to summon from the extra deck anyways. And even if you draw both X and your Servant, it is completely fine in combination with each other. And both of these cards, not only are they kind of like engine cards in a way. Well, I mean, Raziel doesn't bridge into Voices Voice cards, but it still gets you 3 interruptions turn 1, which is great. But also Nadir Servant is engine while also being good board breaker going second. So the hand traps that you have, they're really good at simplifying the game state so that your engine cards can be enough to beat your opponent. I think, by the way, that this is the future for Voices Voice, or at least like pure Voices Voice. But for the love of God, do not play Ryugi or Apogeosis. Those cards are shit in the deck, like very, 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 very bad. 5 Garnets with like 2 good cards. Okay, I mean, I might be exaggerating, it's 6 good cards because it's 2 3-ofs. But even then, like when you draw too many of them, it also means that you're doing less with your Voices Voice cards. I don't know, I'd rather like not draw a single Ryugi card in Ryugi Voices Voice. Just don't play that engine and you're never gonna have that problem. And yeah, this deck can still play a decent amount of hand traps, so 8, 11... Okay, it's not that much, but still, we're seeing 11 hand traps with a lot of board breakers, or at least a lot of gas cards, and you still have your normal summon in the form of Divine or Novox that is completely independent from Nadir Servant and X. Grass Bestial Maliss, I am not even shocked to see this. I have seen a replay of a 60-card Maliss deck where I saw the guy activate Lawn Mowing, and then he milled billions of like Maliss monsters in Fairy Tail Snow, and then he went Snow Effect, banished some Maliss monsters, they all came back, and he still lost because he got hit by Furos, so he couldn't do much of anything, and it's just a very gimmicky deck. It's a cute deck, but I don't think it's going to be worth playing at the TCG because obviously we have 0 Fairy Tail Snow. And also, you don't have a lot of Maliss starters anyway, so this is really just a Copium deck where you think that you're playing like more gas cards, but you're really not, so I really don't think that this has any future potential whatsoever. And also, the side decking patterns in this deck make no sense because you're playing 60 cards, so you have to play like the exact same cards, but like max out cards that have a similar like utility as them. For example, you can't just play Lancia because if you play 3 Lancia and 40 cards, then that's a 33% chance of seeing Lancia. But in 60 cards, that probability gets dropped tremendously. So you now have to play 3 Lancia and 3 Chaos Hunter, and preferably like 2 Nibiru, while also being like teched out to beat Raziel in game 1, which I'm just not a big fan. And yeah, a lot of Bestials, by the way, because this is kind of how you win when you have like Lawn Mowing and a Bestial. You just mill like a Maliss monster and then you banish it. So even like cards like Foolish Burial could almost make sense in this deck because of the sheer amount of Bestial monsters that you're playing. But then again, I don't think it does anything on its own. And even if you have like a Foolish and a Bestial, it's also not like the best combo out there. It's not bad, obviously, but whatever. Considering the amount of hand traps that people have, you'd rather draw like Dormouse and a bunch of hand traps so that even if the game state gets simplified, it's not going to be the end of the world for you. You can still grind it out. But yeah, that's all I had for this, I guess, review of all these beautiful OCG deck lists. A lot of them were like super spicy, and it's kind of unfortunate that we didn't get to see that Tenpai Dragon Dinosaur deck list. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about the OCG format again in the comment section below, as well as these deck lists. I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.